welcome to this week's Good Work Show. We have a good show for you with two ladies that are going to come and talk about totally different issues.
Yeah.
But they're good. They're good.
Individually.
Yes, they are really good interview subjects. And so we hope that you're going to stick around for the whole show. But first up after the break, we have Monica Kant, who is coming to us from GAIN, and that's the Georgia Asylum and Immigration Network. And I don't know about you, but there's lots of stuff that, first of all, I haven't watched the news consistently I shouldn't be saying that for the record, but I haven't watched it consistently for a while because I've been really busy.
It's bad news every day.
It's bad news, but I also have been really busy and traveling and stuff.
True.
So but every time I turn on the news, there's something about immigration.
Yes.
And usually it's bad. And so there's lots of issues that I think Monica and her team are having to deal with, not only just because of the work they do, because it's changing so much.
Well, that's the thing. There's so much. I mean, it's kind of like the stock market right now, right? It's like there's just volatility, like nothing, like something that I feel like you used to be able to rely on, like these are the rules, these are the steps, this is the process, so we're going to navigate it. And it may take long, it may be difficult, but I know the path. I think the thing that they're encountering, and Monica can share a little bit with us when she comes on, is that the path and the rules and the policies are changing so often.
Well, and the dialogue is just changing too.
Well, the dialogue is changing, so it creates...
Yeah, it creates problems and issues and concerns and questions. And
fear and all kinds of things. So I feel like folks, and without notice, I think anybody who has watched anything on the news, and, not to say one side or the other, but I don't think anybody can escape the fact that it's like, oh, we just heard this happen today, and now this is going into effect in 30 days, and you've got people who...
It's weird how the government moves fast on some issues, right? Like, government is usually not that fast.
Did not know it was possible for the, they say it's like trying to steer a cruise ship. Like,
yes.
You can't just turn it. Well, you can, and sometimes they capsize, and that could, there's parallels there on the government making decisions to make very quick changes, and then you kind of see the fallout. And I think that's something, too, that the organization is dealing with. You put a policy in place, you changed a policy, and then there's fallout, and it's like, oh, well, I didn't know it was going to do that, or, whatever. So
they should have gone through the change management training that, that me and the other VPs delivered the other day. Like, they should have gone through our change. We could have given them we created a checklist. We should send this to the...
I think if they cared.
I know. But
that's where you have to start. But anyway, but Monica's going to...
Yes.
Yeah, they're doing good work.
Yeah,
and there's a huge... I don't know. I just think that people don't realize how much the immigrant community is woven into the fabric of the greater community where you live.
Yeah.
You may think it's an over there problem, or, a not in my backyard problem, or that's happening in Texas problem, but you don't realize, oh, that's, folks that I see every day that I, my kids may play soccer with, whatever. So be good to hear from her.
Yeah. And then at the end of the show, we're going to have Erica on, right?
Yeah. So we're going to have Erica Strong. So I met Erica, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago. She and
she came in and she did an interview with us a couple weeks ago. So we're going to bring you that interview.
It'll be, it'll be a flashback to that interview. But Erica is by trade a stylist, a hairstylist. She's my hairstylist, so there's like there you go. Thanks.
Okay.
Anyway. But in addition to that, she has found, and I think that a lot of people who go either to the barbershop or go to the beauty salon or whatever, that you form relationships and you start having conversations with people. There's this great meme of this, it's like a gremlin or something, and it's got a shower cap on. It's sitting in front of the mirror. It's like you never realize how ugly you are until you're sitting in the salon, like no makeup, your hair's wet, and you've got that drape thing on. You are stripped down. And so what she found was when people were in that very vulnerable state, they would open up and talk to her about stuff. And, she was like, kind of found herself a little armchair psychiatrist, but she has found that through her own struggles, she has some stuff that she can offer to other women that are going through trials and tribulations in their life. So she's written her second book,
Okay, cool.
So she's
yeah,
going
because
to
she was with us before when she's written the first book.
So she's written her second book, and then she's got an online community. So she's going to come and share a little bit about that. So while she's working on the outside, she's also working on the inside of the folks that she, well, not just her clients, but everybody. So you don't have to go to the salon to
take advantage of all the wisdom that she has to share. Well, good.
So it should be a good show.
Yeah, it'll be a good show. So stick with us. We do have some news to share with you that we do have a store opening, and we always try to bring the Good Work Show first, give you first dibs, kind of first-ish dibs on when the new store is going to open. So I think you heard us talking about before, if you're a loyal listener, that we were building a store in Duluth, in Gwinnett County, and that store is almost done, and it will be the next one that we open, and the date for that opening is on October
3rd.
Okay. Well, see, that's why I have Trinice here to help clean it up. Yes, October 3rd. It's a Thursday because we always, heretofore, we've always opened a store on a Thursday. So you'll have a grand opening weekend with all of the goodies that will be in store for you, plus grand opening drawings and a bunch of fun. Are we bringing the prize pack?
I mean, sure. Let's put it this way: the prize pack stays with all the grand opening supplies. Like it just rides around in the trunk of my car.
Okay, so if you don't know, Good Work Show listeners, if you say that you heard it on the Good Work Show and you're the first person to say it, you get the prize pack. And there's prizes in the prize pack. I mean, it's a prize pack.
I need to actually look in it because it's probably dusty. I don't know. Like
we can't give away a dusty prize pack.
We've been carrying this prize pack around.
Yeah,
for
nobody
a while.
wants it.
Like we
gotta put something in there. We gotta hype it up. Like we have to put something.
There's gift cards in there. Like there's stuff.
Oh, there's gift card. Go to what?
I think there's gift card. There's a Goodwill gift card in there. I know.
Okay.
There might be like a Chick-fil-A gift card in there to like.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and then there's like a bunch of like Goodwill swag. Like there's stuff in the bag
good
that
stuff in
would,
there.
You know, theoretically, we're not giving you like a bunch of nothing.
Not a bunch of dusty.
I mean, the gift card may have dust on it, but you know, it still spin. It still spins.
So come on October 3rd and claim the prize pack.
Hold on. Now you're making me doubt myself.
No, don't doubt it because I just don't know what the date is on top of my head.
I don't want to tell folks, you know, and then
I feel like it is October 3rd.
Yes,
because October 4th was the day that there's a big job fair.
Yes.
Big shout out to our one of our partners, technical college partners, GPTC, Georgia Piedmont Technical College, is doing a big job fair out in Newton County. Whoop, whoop, in my neck of the woods.
Finally stay home.
Know, finally in my neck of the woods. But they're doing a big job fair. And the reason I remember that is because we're going to be participating in that. And a couple ways we've been doing that at Goodwill and participating in job fairs in particular is we have blazers. And so, you know, we get lots of suit jackets, lots of professional clothing. And so sometimes we work with an organization that's doing a job fair and we'll bring jackets and blazers to the job fair because people who are going and meeting with employers might want a jacket to put on before they go talk to them. And we'll help them out with that professional dress right there. So we're going to participate in that job fair October 4th.
Yes.
And so we'll probably be sharing some information on the Goodwill of North Georgia social media page, but then we'll share it on Good Work Show's page too.
Yeah. I will say this. Blazers are like I find stuff at our stores.
Yeah.
So I have like the certain section, but I will tell you the blazer section is where I kind of clean up.
Yeah.
I got a couple the other day and they were color tags. So they were half price.
Mm-hmm.
And the young lady who was ringing me up, she was like, "Oh, you cleaned up." I was like, "I know." Because you can always throw a blazer.
Yeah.
I remember I used to laugh at my mom because my mom, I don't think she ever left the house not wearing a blazer. And I used to think, oh gosh, you haven't. And she like had a rainbow connection of blazers. Like they were in every color, pattern, but quite honestly, like I did today, you could throw on a pair of jeans and a tank top and throw on a blazer and some heels, and I have a whole outfit.
Well, that would be a whole outfit, yeah.
But I mean,
it's easy, like you can change it out.
It looked real considered. Like I really thought about this.
Yeah, it's just easy to do.
quick tip: if you are shopping at one of our ladies, go to the blazer section because really there's some
men go to the blazer section too.
Or ladies go to the men's blazer section because I've actually seen some really nice men's blazers that are there. And now that we size our stores,
you can
go in that
find
small, medium size or whatever. You can find some nice stuff to throw on with a pair of jeans or whatever. So that's my tip for the day.
All right. Well, cool. So, what else do we have coming up at Goodwill? We got the grand opening coming up soon.
We do. We have Kaiser 5K is coming up in a couple week or so. So we usually have a really big contingent of participants. Kaiser, I think we have 200 people from Goodwill that are registered to run.
That's great. Yes.
Yeah.
And the T-shirt has a great saying on it. And I'm not sure who came up with that, but whoever came up with that was really smart and intelligent. It might have been the
only good idea she's had this year.
No,
so we need to.
Reserving employment for her team might be the best idea. You might want to go with that one. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, yes,
I can go.
You can go where?
I don't know, somewhere.
Anyway, yes, come out, and there's a special message on. I mean, not just because I made it.
It was really
great.
There's
a really special message on the Goodwill of North Georgia T-shirts. And it goes back to our strategic plan, but it's kind of funny.
It is. So
you only at the race can you see it, right?
Yes, and then maybe
we're going to reserve it.
We'll reserve it, but come check. You can't miss us. There's a lot of us, and we tend to have a good time and make a lot of noise.
And there may or may not be people dressed as Legos.
Yeah, so there's that. So if you're running the race and you kind of do all the pre-race festivities or whatever, come stop by and say we'll be there too. So
that's right.
The prize pack won't be there, but you can come back, stop by, and say hi
at the Kaiser.
At Kaiser.
But there will be some fun swag for people who have registered who are on our team.
Yeah.
So don't get jealous, everybody else, because
you
got to work at Goodwill to do that. But anyway, good stuff coming up, fun stuff. We've got a great show for you with Monica and Erica who are coming up today. And just thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in to the Good Work Show. We're going to give you some great content coming up after the break. You're listening to the Good Work Show. All right, audience, welcome back to the Good Work Show. We are excited because we have Monica Kant in with us. She is the executive director for the Georgia Asylum and Immigration Network. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So you got to tell us about the organization and kind of what the mission is of the organization.
Absolutely. So the Georgia Asylum and Immigration Network, GAIN, that's how we call ourselves, is a nonprofit, and we were founded in 2005 to provide free legal immigration services to immigrant victims of crime and persecution. We're a legal organization, and what we realized is that when you can provide immigration services at a critical time to an immigrant who has been persecuted, violated, trafficked, abused, then that can really change the trajectory of their whole lives and create safety and stability, at a time that they didn't have it before.
Yeah. I mean, and that must be, you think about it, you come to a new country, you might not know the language, probably don't know a whole lot of people, and you're going from one situation that is pretty bad, and then you go into something where now you're a victim of a crime. I mean, that... I could just imagine how tough that would be and why GAIN is so needed in the community.
Thank you for saying that. And that's exactly what the rationale and the impetus was in 2005 when the law firms came together. There was a collection of law firms that came together, and it's the bigger law firms in Atlanta that realized that immigrants did not have this representation, and that Atlanta was one of those jurisdictions, those states or those cities that needed that pro bono volunteer assistance. And that was really the reasoning for GAIN to start back in 2005.
And I think it's important, lawyers can be good people.
We can.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to think about that, it was just a group of attorneys that that might have been individually doing some of this pro bono work, but decided to come together and actually form an organization focused on this issue.
That's exactly what it was, and lawyers, are passionate about human rights, about social justice issues, and they wanted a way to do this volunteer work because not only is it required sometimes based on the law firm that you're at, but it's also the reason why many of us do go to law school. And even though we work at firms or we may work in different areas, that passion for human rights never leaves us. And that, was the reason to get together and do this work. Because when you help a vulnerable community that needs legal representation, you really feel like you're paying it forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you said that's why a lot of lawyers go to law school, because you think about it.
Where are you going with this?
Well, no.
Because Monica is a lawyer, so just think about that.
I'm saying it in a positive light. No, because a lot of people, lawyers get a bad rap. It's like, physicians and lawyers, you have jokes off the wazoo.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, and politicians. And politicians.
A lot of times are doctors and lawyers.
That is true. And they might deserve the jokes, but maybe the lawyers, they get a bad rap. And so you think about it, anybody who, out of high school or out of college and says, I want to be a lawyer, there probably was some path. There was something there other than, I saw Law and Order and it looks fun.
I want to make a lot of money.
Or I want to make a lot of money. Yeah,
Right.
there's probably there's probably something in there. They're like, I see this group of individuals or this issue in my community that I really think I want to help, and that's probably what, a lot of the reasons why you go to law school. So that I was going somewhere great.
Yeah.
With that.
Okay. Never know. Just
No, I don't have I haven't had a bad lawyer experience. So that's probably why
I feel like
Yeah.
I'm about to make that. A lot of my best friends are lawyers, which is
Well,
true.
And they're
A
your
lot of
best
your
friends.
best friends are lawyers.
A lot of
yeah.
my best friends are lawyers.
Yeah.
Yes, it's true. So talk to us a little bit about, and one of the things I always think is important, we've talked to a couple of other organizations where we talked about the immigrant community in Atlanta specifically, and then I always say the wrong county that has the DeKalb,
Mm-hmm.
just has a huge population. So talk to us a little bit about, so that people know who their neighbors are. I think a lot of the times we look at, and I said I'm not getting political, I promise, but we hear a lot of stuff, the idea of the immigration issue in the abstract, right? So you hear it on the news and it seems like this big, far away kind of thing, but I don't think people fully recognize, and I didn't before moving to Georgia and kind of working with Goodwill in different spaces, on how large the immigrant community here is, and it's not just people coming from places where we would think they think they are, and how well integrated and how this area is such a sanctuary. So there's a lot of potential clients that you guys could be working with. So share a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in order to get to where we are now, I kind of want to start where it all began, because it actually gives you an understanding of where immigrant populations go. And so I was reading an article, and according to, I'm not originally from Atlanta. I'm from New Jersey and New York. And I can kind of see where there's a clear, distinct growth of immigration population in New York. So I was very curious to see how it started in Atlanta. And I read an article from the AJC. And really, and I've heard this in other areas too, the growth of immigration really started after the Olympics in 1996. Yeah. And that before that, and the Olympics wasn't that long ago, maybe, 2 decades ago. So Atlanta is a newer city to have the immigration growth, which is why we all can probably see it, because it's happened right before our eyes. If you've been in Atlanta for 20 years or so. So in 1996, the Olympics were happening in Atlanta, and we needed labor. We needed folks to help build things because we were not ready. Atlanta was not ready for the stadiums being built, for the housing, everything that needed to be done. And so more folks from the immigrant population came to help that happen. And it's because of that labor that we were able to pull off the Olympics. And then they stayed because the 1990s was also booming. Places like California and Texas were not. And so we were constructing, we were building, we had immigrants work in poultry farms. And so immigrants stayed. And that's where the population grew. It was really during that time that you saw a huge growth. And so DeKalb County also is where there were a lot of refugee organizations. And so refugees started coming to Clarkston. Mayor Ted
That's
Perry,
what I was thinking.
yes,
Clarkston. Yeah.
is a huge immigrant rights proponent. And so he understands the diversity that immigrants can bring. And so Clarkston and areas surrounding Clarkston have really boomed as well because of the refugee population. So those are, I think we need to understand that to know why we are where we are right now. So when you have a newer population come at the point where we are right now, in Atlanta, so in metro Atlanta, about a third of the population is non-white. So it could be immigrant population, but it's a third of the population. Other figures, 10% of Georgia's population was born in another country. 375,000 Georgians were undocumented migrants at that time, and 56,000 refugees have been resettled in Georgia between 1983 and 2008. So those are where the numbers are coming from. And that's why we are also the capital of the South. And so at some point, even if immigrants, go somewhere else in Georgia, they've started here in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a really good history lesson because, it's good to know, how the community came to the area that they were coming at a time where, and we hear this a lot, like there is work to be done. There are things that need to happen, and the immigrant community kind of comes in and fills in those gaps and then become a part of the fabric of the community. So it's good to recognize that and to acknowledge that and acknowledge the contributions.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so in that, we do have, some of the challenges that have happened because the growth has been so new, I would say. Atlanta has not been progressive in immigration rights because it's all of a sudden new. Our immigration courts, which used to serve surrounding states, and now because it's grown, we now, like North Carolina, South Carolina, have their own immigration courts, but Atlanta is the hardest immigration court to get asylum or to get humanitarian type of visas because it is one of those courts that suddenly saw such an influx of all these cases coming in. And just recently, I would say 5 years ago, some of the courts have separated because there's been a burden of too many cases in Atlanta. So that's another reason why GAIN came to be, because the attorneys knew and heard from, other jurisdictions where their big law firms were that Atlanta needed the help because it had one of the hardest jurisdictions in filing asylum claims. Nationwide, about 30 to 40% of cases will be granted, but in asylum, it's less than 5%.
Wow.
So there is such a disparity in the difference.
Yeah. Wow. So we've got about a minute left, and we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, talk a little bit more about some of the programs. And I guess we'll probably start off with the asylum program and kind of dig into that, give our audience an understanding about what's involved in that, and then maybe go into some of the other programs. But first, before we do that, since we do have some time left, why don't you give the audience your website address or information about where they can learn more about GAIN and the work that you're doing?
So our website really is the best place to, and it's www.georgiaasylum.org. You can tell my age because I just said www. But it's Georgia Asylum, all one word, .org, O-R-G. And you really can find a lot of information on programs we're having, events, volunteer needs. Of course, if you're an attorney, there is a, natural way for you to help us. But it's not just attorneys, it's community members. At the end of the year, we're going to have a toy drive for our families, and that's where it can be creative.
Well, we're going to be right back with Monica Kant. Audience, stick with us. You're listening to The Good Word Show. Audience, and welcome back to The Good Work Show. We are chatting with Monica Kant, who is the Executive Director of GAIN, which is the Georgia Asylum and Immigration Network, an organization right here in our community that is helping immigrants and folks who have come over to seek asylum with all kinds of things, but really legal representation. Of course, if they are victims of crimes, which we talked about at the beginning of your first segment, but I think we should dig into that just a little bit more. But let's start off with the asylum component of what you do, because you have a program that is designed just around that. So can you give us a sense of what that entails and who might be a really good candidate to go into that program?
So we have two programs at GAIN, but the Asylum program is our flagship program. It's really the program that GAIN was started because of. And so in 2005, when we realized that asylum seekers, and those are people who fear persecution from their home country, but are in the United States. So an example of that may be somebody from Syria, somebody from Iraq, a country where there's a lot of war, turmoil, political instability, not enough, understanding if someone is from the LGBT community but cannot live in their home country because they would be worse than ostracized. They would be jailed and killed because of their sexual orientation. That is, that is an asylum seeker, and those are the populations that we help in our asylum program. So if it is someone who is seeking asylum, a lot of cases that you hear at the border are potential asylum cases. We match those cases. We do a screening. We'll meet with the client, tell them about the asylum process, and do a screening of the case. And then if it is a case that we can represent, then we match it with a volunteer attorney, and we provide the supervision, the mentoring, and the training to the volunteer attorney so that they can successfully represent the asylum seeker during their case. And these cases right now are what you hear about in the news. When you hear about border, when you hear about children, separation, it's those types of cases that you hear. And it would be really difficult for any immigrant client to proceed in immigration court anywhere in a different language, like you mentioned, without the attorney to guide them through and represent them and advocate for them.
Yeah.
How long is that process?
So that's a really good question. It's changed. The last 2 years have brought about a whole different bunch of policies that have shifted on a daily basis that timeline. So it can take anywhere from 1 to 5 years.
Wow.
Depending on where you are in the process.
And is that same attorney kind of tracking, or do they,
Switch
fall off, or how does that happen?
So we help them to track the case, and if it is something where they need to take a break from or fall off of because they've moved to a different city or state, then usually the firm who handles the case will put someone else in.
Okay.
So when that case is being represented, the firm takes care of it.
Got it.
Yeah.
That
good question.
And I can see what you're talking, like with the way that things are changing, because I was, they were watching on the news, and apparently there was a special dispensation for folks for kids that were going through medical treatment.
Right.
And now those provisions have been changed, and those families are no longer being able to have that certain status to be able to stay in the country. So it seems like every time you turn on the news that there's something else.
New.
And your attorneys would have to
We dissect it. We receive the information, we dissect it, and then we put it out to the attorneys on how it can change. And so before 2 years ago, we didn't have that much volatility in the immigration policies. And now we do. So any immigration attorney will tell you that it's really difficult to predict what's going to come through the door in policies and regulations.
Yeah.
Okay, so you also talked about immigrants who were victims, and so and you mentioned a lot of key things that we talk about and issues that we talk about on this show. Human trafficking, and in particular, we've had a lot of organizations on that are working in that space. And I probably, by and large, most of the people we probably are talking about, we're probably focused on people who were here. You know what I mean? And not necessarily, and I don't think the general public thinks, wow, there's probably, again, you're new to a country, you don't know the language, you're probably
vulnerable.
Yes, you're vulnerable. And at that point, you don't know who to trust.
That's exactly right.
So let's talk about the Victims of Violence program, which is the other program that you offer. And the challenges that go along with those folks who are in that program, and then how are you helping them? Because I think that it would be a unique collection of services to be able to help those folks, not just victims of human trafficking, but then you add on you're an immigrant and you're new to the country as well, and then like do they even trust you at Gain at that point? Who should So talk to us about that.
And you brought up such great points because that's what we go through with every single client really thoughtfully, because you're absolutely right. So the Victims of Violence program started in 2010 because we also saw an unmet need in the community that immigrants needed legal assistance if they were a victim of human trafficking, domestic violence, sexual assault, or other crimes. And so Gain rose, and we also wanted to address that challenge because there are laws and visas to protect immigrant victims of crime that we wanted to utilize for our clients, that we wanted to make sure that our clients could access. And so in doing that, we've learned that our clients, of course, especially now, are really fearful of telling anyone about the abuse they've faced. There have been many studies out and articles which state that immigrant victims of domestic violence, human trafficking now are less likely to report the crime because they're afraid of deportation. And in any, in any prosecution, your victim is your best witness.
Right.
So if you don't have victims coming forward, then that really will allow the crime to continue, and the community is remaining unsafe. So that has been one of those really difficult, heartbreaking things that I've seen over the last 2 years, because we have laws, legitimate laws in our federal system to protect victims, and they're not taking advantage of it. But when you do have a client who does come to you, or maybe they come to you through law enforcement, another partner, they might be at a shelter. We've done a lot of education lately to make sure that any immigrants who could be potential victims know to come to us through people they trust in a shelter, through caseworkers, through therapists. And so when you have someone they trust telling you to come to us, then that actually bridges the trust gap. And we take our time with these cases. We never rush. We build that trust. We explain the system. We explain what could happen. And so everything we do is building that trust. And we've also realized that our clients, other than the legal representation, have other basic unmet needs, like housing, therapy, food, assistance for their kids. And we help them navigate that too, because we have a new position. It's, a 2-year-old position, but it's fairly new, where we have a social service, worker come and, work with Gain and our clients too. So that also helps to, bridge that gap a little bit. But it is tougher now because of the climate that we're in for any immigrant victim.
Yeah.
So you guys, so you're talking about some of those other wraparound services that you provide. So how can the community, and I'm kind of skipping ahead in my questions, but how can the community support that? Because again, in the news, we're hearing stories about changes in policies for people who seek governmental support that could negatively impact their ability to get personal permanent status. So are you seeing a bigger need for things like a food pantry and that kind of stuff for the community to support, so that people can make use of your services without fearing having to go into getting, getting SNAP or getting stuff like that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I was just having a conversation with a food pantry who said also that many immigrants have declined in accessing food pantry services because they fear that authorities might be there waiting for them, and they're not doing anything wrong other than accessing food. So they're just a fear everywhere, no matter where they go. So, but that is a way. So us trying to kind of, educate others and educate our clients where you can go and you are safe. It is really important to support all that, not just for immigrants, but for any population, whether it's the homeless population or any population. Food pantries is a great example of that, but also shelters, social service organizations as well.
Yeah. What about interpreters? Because I would imagine there's lots of different languages that are spoken, and the very first thing is the communication. I mean, you gotta be able to- so
Yeah.
could you? Are there folks who could volunteer and help with that?
Yes, absolutely. We're always looking for volunteers. GAIN is, but I know other organizations that work with immigrants would say the same thing. We're putting together training, screening, and all that for interpreters because there's a certain way to interpret with a client, and we want to make sure that we let others know about that. At our staff, we have Spanish speakers. We have folks who speak other languages like Arabic. I speak a few languages, so we make sure to hire folks that also speak those languages. But if not, we support it through volunteers. We work with law schools and other institutions to make sure that we get interpreters. But that is a need.
Yeah.
So that's a great point.
Great.
So how else? We have a couple minutes left, I think.
About a minute.
About a minute. How else can the community support the work that you're doing?
For us, I started this work 20 years ago up north. And when these laws came about, I was doing a lot of educating. We're back to that, where we need to educate each other, where we need to tell positive stories, uplifting stories about our clients. And I would love for the community to share in that with me, because I think if we pass along these messages, then we're not sharing stories that aren't actually real. I think it's really important to share actual, authentic, real information to the immigrant population or to others who work with immigrant population, because there's so much to be afraid of right now. Yeah. So that's one way. And of course, supporting with your time, talent, and treasure is something that all organizations absolutely need.
All right. So it's GeorgiaAsylum.org is the website. Monica, thank you so much for joining us on the Good Work Show today. We appreciate your time and applaud the work that GAIN is doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all that you do.
You're listening to the Good Work Show. Audience, welcome back to the Good Work Show. We are excited to have with us Miss Erica Strong. She's an author. She's been on our show before. It's been a while, right?
It's been a while. Yeah, a long time.
Like a year and a half ago, 2 years?
Might be longer than that.
Yeah. So the last time you were on the show, you were telling us about the book that you had just written, and now you're back with something else. So something else exciting. So first of all, let's talk about Finishing Strong and the mission.
Well, Finishing Strong really started with just myself, like going through such tremendous amount of pain and just destruction in your life. And I'm sure everybody can kind of attest to that. You have those hiccups in your life that you're like, oh my God, like, how am I going to ever get over this? And literally, as I was trying to figure it out for myself, as a stylist, of course, you hear everybody else's problems and stuff. I am the therapist of the community. And so while I'm helping other people, I had to start thinking like, okay, now how do I help myself? And in helping myself, really turned the attention off of myself, started helping other people. And then I started getting the answers for myself. And the answer for me was, you can finish strong. And that's how Finishing Strong was birthed. Like, you can finish strong. And I just started teaching everybody that same concept.
Wow.
That it's true, because you go into there, you've got your hair's wet.
Yeah. You are the most
can't
vulnerable.
go anywhere. Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you seen that meme where it's like you never realize you're like, you think you're cute, and then you look in the mirror at the hairdresser, your hair's wet, and you're like, oh, is that what I look like?
I'm telling you, it's like people are the most vulnerable when they take off the makeup and take off the hair and all that stuff, and they really talk to us. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I have my master's in marriage and family therapy, so I really am qualified to have those therapeutic conversations. And because they talk to me so much about their stuff, it makes you realize, wait a minute, your problem really isn't that bad. So when you internalize what's happening to yourself, you think you're the only one, you think nobody can understand. But as you start listening to other people's problems, you get it. Like, you know what? This is just a cycle of life. But what happens is we get stuck. So Finishing Strong is teaching people how to become unstuck and push that power behind them to say, I can do this. Like, you're running this race.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about why. So you were doing that and you were hearing other folks' stories, but what made you decide to use your personal story as motivation for other people?
Because I realized people really trust authentic genuine communication. And I can't, help you if you don't feel like I can relate. So if you say, Erica, I'm going through a divorce and I don't know what to do, and I say, Trinice, I've been there, you'll be more inclined to listen than the person that seems to have the perfect life. Like, okay, tell me about your problems. You won't be as, forthcoming if I'm, pushing you to tell you something that I can't relate to. So I felt by giving my true, authentic story, it wasn't like the plate of violins. It wasn't a woe is me. It was like, hey, I can relate. You have financial calamity, I can relate. You've had
Not just problems,
calamity, I can relate. So it's like almost everything somebody can talk to me about where I thought was the thorn in my side became really the very thing that I help more people with.
Wow.
Yep.
So when you're speaking to people, you've got like a top 3 things that you want them to take from the conversation. What are they?
Well, the top is that there's an internal presence that we have, an internal power that we have that we can always pull from. So I always want people to know that the answer to their issues isn't outside of themselves. The answer is truly inside of themselves. So when you realize that answer is there, everything else follows. So that would be my top 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. All right.
That's good.
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because, I feel like in this day and age, folks are looking for external validation. I mean, even to the point where like Instagram had to take away the likes because everybody's, their whole thing is driven by, how many likes did I get on my picture and can people see this?
Wait a minute, they took away the likes?
Well, supposedly they're working on it. No, they are.
I didn't know
They're
that.
working
But I
on
was
it.
like, well, the last time I was on there, like yesterday, I told somebody to like something and I saw it.
No, so they're working through taking them away because they're saying that people are putting so much on.
Yeah.
Oh, my picture doesn't have a lot of likes, and what are people going to think about me if people don't see that I have 500 likes on my picture? So what they're doing is you can see it, but they're supposed to be moving to this thing where no one else can see how many likes a post has.
Yeah.
So like you can't have that barometer anymore to say like, oh, well, my friend posted a picture from the pool party and it got 60 likes, but my picture only got 35 likes. So people don't like me as much as they like
So
her.
you can
Like
only see your likes.
you can see yours, but you're not going to be able to see other people's to have that barometer.
You know what? I think it's good in a sense, but then in a sense, I think it's not that good when you think of, you have to really own your confidence.
Yeah.
Like I can post something and maybe get 5 likes, but I still have to stand firm in my confidence in who I am. And one of the things that I saw that and I actually wrote it yesterday, just in what I do, I'm always posting and tagging and, connecting to the internet just so that I can keep people in the know of what I'm doing. And I really have to pull myself back from it sometimes. Like, wait a minute, nobody liked that one. Hold up. But the information I gave is great.
Yeah.
I'm okay and my world is fine.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
We feel that way about the show sometimes.
I know. We will have another show.
Yes.
So whether you watch it or not, we're going to keep
fine.
it going.
We're coming back.
And you know what? It's funny you say that. When I started Finishing Strong, it was a group page on Facebook. And I was just expressing myself. And you'll see in this new book, Finishing Strong, How to Think, Speak, and Live Strong Every Day. It was all of those documents that I compiled into one to create this book. And it was all of affirmations and just points. And when I started it, no one was in my group. No one was liking it. But I was doing it from a perspective of, even if no one reads it, I'm putting it out there.
Yeah.
And then mysteriously, everybody found it. And it's like, okay, now, it's there, but keep it up. If nobody listens, I will not stop.
And you'll listen.
Yeah, I'll listen. I'll definitely
We'll
listen.
have one listener and one viewer. That's right.
Right.
Come on, finish strong.
Well, speaking of the affirmation, you had one that you wanted to share with our listeners.
Yeah.
So go ahead and let's
That'd be awesome.
let's share
And this
that.
is from the book, everybody.
Yes.
Finishing Strong.
And my eyes I need glasses now just to read.
And no vanity about that either.
No.
So it's from one of the inserts to hurt, to heal, or to hurt. And I basically was talking about, like, we really do have the power to heal ourselves. So after every insert, I always do an affirmation. So repeat after me. I decide what to internalize in every situation. I have the ability to rise from anything. My life, my happiness, and my feelings are controlled by what I internalize. So I internalize love, peace, forgiveness, joy, abundance, and power. I heal my heart. Therefore, I heal my hurt. Now believe it and know it.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
So, I mean, and that to me is always something that speaks to the audience to say you can heal yourself from anything. It really depends on what you internalize. If it's a woe is me, you're going to stay hurt. But if it's I can overcome this, then you'll be able to heal from the inside.
Wow. So where can people pick up the book?
So my website is ericastrong.com.
Okay.
So they can pick it up from ericastrong.com or my salon, Be Strong Salon. Like everything with me is strong.
Strong.
Yes.
So Be Strong Salon, Erica Strong, finishing strong. Everything is strong, strong, strong. And it's just really a testament or a running affirmation that you can always finish strong. But ericastrong.com is where the book is housed.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
So tell us about some of the people in the group, or at least maybe a story of someone who you've helped along the way, because you've been doing this for a while.
I've been doing it for a
This is your
while.
second book.
Mhm.
So, so the first one was really about, telling your story and encouraging others. And this one again with the affirmation. So tell us about, someone who you mentioned you started and there was nobody in the group. And so now there's lots of people in the group, or people who are reading your book.
Yeah.
Have any of them reached out to you and said, wow,
Oh my
this
God!
was so
I
important?
get so many messages, especially in the Facebook group, and a lot of them are like, "Oh my God, I really needed to hear that today. I needed that today." But two of them that really touched my heart. One was a lady from India, and she sent a message and said, "Can you please pray for my son?" And she was telling me all the things that was going on with her son. She said, "I don't know any Christians here, and I know that your God listens. Can you please pray for my son?" And I thought, like, wow. And the second one was a person from Africa. As they were reading my affirmations, they were like, "Your work here is helping so many people. Do you mind if I print it off and give the copies out?"
Wow.
And I mean, I can't say no, because how can I stop them?
Right.
So I was like, as long as you're not trying to resell it, I would love to be able to help more people. But that one message made me realize, wait a minute, Erica,
Put it
you have
all
a book.
together.
Yeah.
Put it in a
Yeah.
book.
You've written a whole
And so I did
book.
that. I've
Yeah.
written a whole book. And as a matter of fact, throughout the years that I've done this is just half.
Wow.
This
So
is
there's going
just
to be a third book, is what we're saying.
Yes. We'll be finishing stronger.
Yes.
You can have that.
And it's
Yes.
stronger.
We'll
Yes.
just take it off my next appointment. Little trade off.
Yes.
Oh, cool. So, I think it's just really interesting. You talked about the fact that you are a stylist. You're my stylist. That's how we met.
Right.
But so much of that is focused on outward appearance. But you have this. You're working on kind of healing the whole person. And that's just such an interesting thing, where you would usually think about somebody who is kind of focused on more on the exterior. That's just where it would stop. So it's interesting to me that you have kind of taken that step to look at both sides of the coin.
Absolutely. And it's because of that I have been like in that space to listen to so many people's problems or issues. And to me, I always call myself the community's therapist, but also being able to step in the space of, I'm also a celebrity stylist. So when you think of everyday women that have their issues, well, celebrities do as well. And then you see this whole circle of like problems, and it's the same thing. They're just on different socioeconomic levels, but they have the same issues. And seeing that we can make this movie star up so glamorous and so pretty, almost look like she's not real. But when she take the makeup off and she take the hair out, and she have the same issues. And I thought, you know what, if we can heal ourselves from the inside first, like when I take off my makeup with all of my blemishes and anything that I see that's not perfect, I'm still perfect. I'm still fine. I'm still okay.
Yeah.
So I think in this industry, to push inner healing first, that makes everything on the outside just even better, if you ask me.
All right. Awesome. Well, so Be Strong Salon is Finishing Strong is the book. You can go pick it up there.
Yep.
And we just thank you for coming by and continuing
Thank
to
you
do
for
that.
having me.
Can people still join the Facebook group?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Please. So,
And
because
the
I
name
still,
of it is?
it's Finishing Strong.
Finishing Strong.
And I still share all of these messages through Facebook as well.
All right. So you've heard it here. Thank you so much for coming
Thank you
by
for
the
having
show.
me, guys.
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Absolutely. You're listening to The Good Work Show.